purchase that. Up next, we have my man Chazz, Positively Caviar himself. You're going to see some power presented to you right now. He's going to tell you all about what Positively Caviar actually is and how he's chosen to own his own kingdom. So without further ado, let's bring up my man Chazz.
Hey, 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 what's going on, everybody? Javon, thanks for inviting me to this conference. I am so excited to be here. We did do some testing, so my audio may be a little delayed, so bear with us, but we will power through this. So as I think about owning your kingdom and what Aisha is talking about in terms of self-care, she laid down some powerful things that we need to do to fill up our cup so that we can pour into others and do the things that we want to do. But when I think about Javon's book, Own Your Kingdom, in this conference, a lot of people seem to think that that is directly correlated to like material items and things, whether it be a certain position, a certain car, a certain house. But as you guys know, everything starts in the mind. And your kingdom, which is right here in your brain and in your mind, is very, very important, and it needs to be taken care of, and you need to understand how to use it effectively to achieve your desires and goals. So for the past couple of years, I started a nonprofit where I focus on mental wellness for youth. I've also coached entrepreneurs and professionals such as yourselves to help them gain the success that they want on effectively using their mind. And one of the things that I think is so interesting is we all have the same mind, we all have the same body, but people use them differently for the results that they want in their life. So for example, we all have the same mind, we all have the same body, but some people are more successful than others. Some people are doing the things that they need to do in their relationships more than others. Some people are doing more so in their professional careers than others, but it's ensuring that your goals, your intentions, what you want out of life is showing up in the results of your life. Okay? So this is about mastering your own mind. And that's the kingdom within. And once you can do that, that's when synchronicities happen. That's when coincidences happen. That's when the right people show up. That's when the right book shows up. And when it does, you better make sure you read it, because that will continue to amplify your journey towards who you're supposed to become. Now, here's one thing that truly changed my life. I was back in college, Hampton University, studied computer science there, had a tough time in school, had a tough time in life, just trying to figure out how to make life work for me. And eventually I came across a book. Many of you have probably read it or heard of it. It's called The Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. When I started reading this book and I started implementing some of the practices in this book in my life, that's when my life began to change. That's when I started to realize that there was a voice inside of my head, and that voice influenced how I spoke up for myself, how I talk, the results that happen in my life. And once I started to realize that that self-talk, which most people refer to, actually influences my external reality and what shows up, that's when my life began to change. Because guess what? I became aware of this voice so I can use it to manifest or create the goals or desires that I want. So I'll give you a quick example. A lot of people pray, right? Praying is important if you are spiritual, right? But a lot of people pray for 5 to 10 minutes, but they continually throughout the day, they're thinking the exact opposite of what they prayed for. That is not how it works. We have to consistently ensure that we're focusing on the things that we do want as opposed to the things that we don't want. We all have those people that are pointing around and saying, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this. Well, what do you want? Do you have a preference in your life? What is it that you want out of life? So it's very, very important that we get crystal clear on what it is that we want in our lives. So when I read that book, it completely changed my life. And I read it over and over and over and over again, because intellectually I understood it, but emotionally I had to get involved so I could change my own life. And I once read in a book where it said, if you read a book over a second time, You don't see something that you didn't see before. You see something in yourself that wasn't there before. In other words, when you begin to read a book over again the second time, it deposits something within you. It may change you. It may enlighten you. It may get you stronger. It may make you feel confident or powerful. This is one of the best things that you can do when you're trying to create some change in your life, because what you want to do is get involved in the message and have that influence your results. I'll give you a quick tip. Go to Amazon.com, get Own Your Kingdom, and get Javon's book. And I would encourage you to read it twice so you can understand and start to implement some of his practices. So here's the thing. One of the things that you must know about humans, right? Scientists and philosophers have been in disagreement for so many different things, except one. We become what we think about. They even say it in the Bible. A man thinks in his heart, so is he. As a man or woman continues to think, so he or she remains, right? So it's very, very important that we become aware of those thoughts so it can influence our wealth, relationships, and the success that we want. Because once you become aware and once you start to align those thoughts towards what you desire, that's when life will happen. Now, here's another thing that I want you to keep in mind. A lot of people say, well, this is the way that I've always been. A lot of people say, well, this is the life that kind of happened to me, or this is how my parents were, so I'm like this. Studies have shown that your brain and body can change over time according to your thought patterns. It's a new study called neuroplasticity. Big word, here's what it means. Your brain is extremely malleable and it can change according to your thought patterns and your habits and your actions, which basically means it's like learning a habit. Maybe the first time that you've ridden a bike, the first time that somebody had taught you how to get in a car and use manual, right? Manual stick shift. First it was hard, but then it became easier over time. They have done studies and showing how when you set goals, it excels your success. Or when you become aware of your thought patterns, it excels your success because you're more aware of how your internal state influences your actions. So it gets easier over time, like learning a habit. And guess what? As you begin to deepen those pathways in your brain, you get stronger and stronger and stronger. That's why repetition and consistency is so important when you're implementing new habits, right? So you can change. You can influence your destiny. And you can change the structure of your brain by just doing some simple practices. So here's some of the things that I want to give to you. I got 4 tips. And I usually share these on my webinars, and I dive a little bit deeper on them as it relates to your mind and brain. And the reason why I'm sharing with you all this science is because if you have the knowledge of how this works, then you're adequately able to make the necessary changes. But if I just give you a whole bunch of motivation without giving you the proper understanding and tools on how to use them, then sometimes you don't necessarily get the results that you want in your life because you can't effectively use them. That's why I give people the knowledge, all right? So here's the first tip. I'm coming down to my time, all right? So you're gonna set a goal for yourself, right? Too many people in life walk around, choose the things that they don't want and focus on the things that they don't want as opposed to the things that they do want. You've probably heard this before, but what you focus on grows, right? So if you focus on your debt, if you focus on the issues that you have in your life, guess what? That's all that you see. And that is your perception. And guess what? Your perception influences your reality. So I need you to focus on a goal. What is it that you want out of life? Get real specific. Don't just say, I want money. Don't just say, I want a better life. Your brain doesn't understand that. There's something just behind your forehead called the prefrontal cortex, and it needs clarity. Clarity is your superpower. Clarity is your superpower. So get a notebook, get a pen, write down exactly what you want. How much money you want to earn? Do you want to start a business? Where would that business be located? Your brain loves clarity, okay? And you've probably heard this quote before, but guess what? Success is nothing but the progression of a realization of a worthy goal, which basically means as you continue to move towards your goal, you're already successful. but you got to have a goal to start. Okay. So continue to figure out what it is that you want. Set some time aside throughout the day or even today on a Sunday and figure out what you want. So those coincidences and synchronicities begin to happen. And I'm going to give you a quick little secret about how this world works. The only way that you can have synchronicities and how to have life show up for you is if you have a goal in mind or an intention. If you have no intentions, if you have no goals, life may not work for you to the extent of which you may like it to because you haven't set the proper intentions for what you want. That's when life begins to work. It's very, very interesting, but begin to try that. And I'm sure that you've tried it previously, but try it with some of the principles that I'm sharing with you today. The second one here is guard your mind, right? There's so much information coming into our brain, coming into each of our five senses that they can negatively influence us or they can positively influence us. But we have to stand at the gate to ensure that anything comes in, whether it be I'm scrolling on social media, whether it be I'm watching a YouTube video, whether I'm around people that are negative or positive, you need to be very, very cautious about who you expose yourself to and what you expose yourself to. When I get on social media, I do not get on social media to unconsciously scroll. I'm looking for things to support either my self-image about who I feel like I am or how I can maybe help others. When you get on social media and you go on YouTube videos and you go on the internet, these are the two questions that you should ask yourself. Do I want to get emotionally involved in this idea? Right? And does this information or will this information support my future? Those are the two questions that you should be asking yourself when you're presented with new information or when you share a goal with somebody and they say, I don't think you can do that. Don't listen to them. Guard your mind. Guard your mind. So that's very, very important as well. And guess what? If the answer to those two questions are no, you throw it out. Throw it out. You have the ability to do that in your conscious mind. But many people don't have the awareness to say that information doesn't support me. I'm out. That's important. All right, here's the third one. Engage in your personal development. Buying Javon's book, reading that, listening to conferences such as this, doing that, listening to podcasts, reading books. Very, very, very important. Here's one of the things that you'll begin to understand. You will find that your belief system is based upon the evaluation of something. Okay? So hear me out. The more that you begin to evaluate yourself, the more belief that you will have in yourself. So evaluation is studying yourself. And how do you study yourself? You either read books, you either listen to podcasts or attend conferences like this because you begin to discover new levels of your own potential that you already have. Right? That's why coming to stuff like this is so important because it gets you excited, it gets you motivated. You start to say, oh, he can do that? I can do that too. You know what I mean? That is very, very, very important. Engage in your personal development so you can change the results in your life. All right, so that's number 3. Here's a bonus. All right, kind of similar to what Aisha was talking about in self-care, right? Very, very important. She's touched on some key points. Get centered daily. I don't know what that looks like for you, whether it be meditation, praying, or silence, or journaling. Get centered, okay? Here's one of the things that I think we all know, but we don't necessarily think about. There are so many distractions and demands that drown out the pulse of our own soul. And we have to take time to get connected, to get aligned, to really figure out what it is that we want in our life and what are those necessary actions that I need to take in order to get those results in my life. There's so many people talking, I'll sell you this, I'll sell you that, I'll get you this, I'll do that. But what is it that you want to do? Get centered daily. I would recommend maybe about 10 minutes in the morning, journaling. I meditate for 10 minutes. That really gets me centered. That gets my mindset in the correct way so I can show up for myself, so I can show up for others. Get centered. And we've always talked about this in the Bible, right? When you get centered on yourself, you begin to have a vision for yourself. And if you don't have a vision for yourself or your future self, then the people perish. And that people meaning you. You have to ensure that you have a future vision for yourself. So get centered daily. I hope those tips were helpful. My call to action is you can check out my website, chazzscott.com. I have a free workbook, Overcoming Negative Thoughts and Self-Limiting Beliefs. You just enter in your email and you get that free workbook. I'm coming up with a masterclass pretty soon, November 17th at 6 p.m., discussing how to master your habits to create the success that you want. Because first we create our habits, then our habits create us. So I'll be sharing some really, really important stuff there. You can actually use a promo code for 20% off, Habits 2021, and you can check that out on my website at chazzscott.com. Follow me on Mr_Caviar on Twitter as well as Instagram, and I really, really enjoyed this opportunity to spend time with you. Please check out Javon's book. Please read it, not just once, but I would recommend 2 or 3 times so it can deposit some information for the results that you want in your life. Thank you.